I rescued a dog, and if you wanna see how we met, you can check out that video on my channel. This video continues our story, but this time I will talk about what it really takes to move across countries with a rescue dog, the stress, the planning, and the reality behind it. This is what it looked like for us. The first big trip we did together was from Finland to Hungary by car. It was about 2,200 to 2,500 kilometers, crossing multiple countries. We drove through Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary. I did this trip with my father, which made everything significantly easier. We could take turns driving, which meant the journey was faster and much safer for both of us, especially with a rescue dog who was already very anxious. We took the ferry from Helsinki to Tallinn. It was a short crossing, about 2.5 hours. Topi had his own ticket, and we were checked at boarding. Everything went smoothly, since this was within the European Union. Border crossings were generally straightforward. Even though the drive sounds simple on paper, it wasn't. With a dog like Topi, everything takes longer. He was scared of almost everything, even small things like water bottles. So we had to stop often. We made sure he could drink, eat, and relax at his own pace. I used a small ceramic bowl for him because it was the only thing he felt comfortable drinking from. So every stop meant fresh water, checking if he was okay, waiting until he felt safe enough to continue. That added a lot of time to the journey. The trip ended up taking around 2.5 days in total, including breaks and ferry time. Just to give a rough idea of what this cost us at the time, we had a Mazda 5 with around 6 liters per 100 kilometer consumption, 2,300 kilometers in total, 138 liters of fuel, at 145 to 155 euro per liter at the time. The ferry around 100 to 200 euro. Food, stops, basics 80 to 150 euros. The vet, paperwork and passport costs 100 to 300 euros. The total estimated cost added up around 500 to 900 euros. And what surprised me the most is how quickly small things added up. Later, I also moved with Topi by plane, and this experience was very different. Before the flight, I had to take him to the vet again to make sure everything was up to date. Depending on the country and situation, rabies vaccination rules can vary, so I always had to double check everything carefully. I took the train with him to Helsinki. Topi was extremely anxious, and I was already nervous because knew what was coming. He had to be checked in around 2 hours before the flight, so the entire process became train journey, waiting, check-in, airport handling, flight time. In total, around 4 to 5 hours of stress and waiting alone with a rescue dog. Topi had to travel in the cargo hold under the plane. This was honestly the hardest part for me. I gave him water, made sure he had one last walk, and then I handed him over. They placed a tracking sticker on his carrier and documentation, and he was loaded onto the flight. The flight itself was about 2.5 hours, but the waiting felt much longer. I was on edge the entire time, just hoping he was okay. When we arrived in Budapest, I went to pick him up from the baggage area. The cost of flying with a dog a lot depending on airline and route, so I can't give an exact number here. But it is usually a combination of airline pet fee, crate carrier costs, vet documentation, and travel costs to the airport. And now, the next chapter is already starting. Topi is moving from Hungary to Greece, and in many ways, it feels like a second version of the Finland car trip, just in a different direction. We are staying within the European Union, which makes travel generally more straightforward, but it still requires careful planning. Different countries have different rules, so I always make sure to check everything in advance. For me, car travel is still the least stressful option for a dog like Topi, so that's what we are continuing with. One thing I learned through all of this is that it's worth comparing vet prices between countries. Sometimes procedures like dental work are significantly cheaper in certain places, and planning ahead saves both money and stress. For example, I made sure Topi had a dental procedure done in Hungary because it was more affordable than elsewhere. And once you arrive in a new country, one of the first things you need to do is register your dog and make sure the microchip is updated with the local authorities. I really hope this video was informational. If you have any questions, please let me know and I'm happy to answer them. If you ever done something similar, I'm very happy to hear them in the comments. Thank you for being here. See you next time.